heard that. She was
All right, the meeting will come to order.
Were you like here? Oh, no. Okay, yes. Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. If you're a senator, please sit in the first 3 rows. Just make sure you can count y'all. Okay, cool. So we will start with reading the minutes. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes?
Okay.
Phil? What?
Oh, no, I talked about it earlier. Pretty much the header has a long page.
Are these, Maddie?
Those are the, those
These
are
are
the
the minutes we never got around to approving?
No, these are the minutes from last week, but he's right, I forgot to change the header on them.
All right, well, that's like a procedural thing. Like,
Yeah, I
we'll
already
just change
changed
that.
it.
I don't
Yeah, I
think that
already-
requires an amendment. Anyone else have changes to the minutes? No one? All right, seeing there are no changes to the minutes, they will be approved as they are. All right, is there anyone here to speak? Anyone here for the public forum? None? Then we will be moving on to reports. All right, speaker report. This was not on the docket that got sent out, but last week we postponed the motion to adopt the resolution, the Auditing Committee Creation Act. We will take that up under old business, and I'm not certain if it needs to be moved. Just move it; it'll be fine. Also, thank you all for being here. For those of you who aren't, a couple thought it was okay to say I'm not coming to this meeting as like a valid excuse. That's not an excuse. If you aren't showing up, you need an actual reason, because we all need you to be here. Rules.
Oh, okay. I'll do rules again. So there's still no chair for rules.
Appointment today.
Okay, so that's good. Rules is going to be working a lot with the secretary, once whoever that appointment is, because we really need to update the bylaws, and that is it.
CSI?
So we met twice this month. We're not even halfway through the month, but we discussed club statuses as usual. The audit bill. Liam came in and guest starred, and then a few things about the finance policies that were announced at Reconnect with Elena. Let me know if you want more info.
PR?
Hi, so I'm going to send out an email probably like later tonight after this email, or after this meeting, or like early tomorrow morning. But let's start sending emails to our districts again. We don't have like all the senators yet, but like we're reusing our districts from last semester. And like the deadline for the intercultural center is coming up, so let's send that link to our districts to make sure as many people fill it out as possible. And then as well as other updates that I'll be sending out soon. And there's the doodle that I've had up for the past 2 meetings for committee meetings this semester.
Campus life? All right. Are these updates? Yep. Okay. Committee on Academic Rights. Jimmy is not here.
I'll be reading. So pretty much we met on Wednesday. The links for meeting minutes are there. And then we'll meet again next week depending on the members. So yeah, join the car Slack channel and Jimmy will post and everything.
Cool.
And
Academic curriculum
so we met last week, talked about a few things, just trying to establish some goals for the semester. So for us, it's going to be a lot of just trying to do small changes that can be done this semester because that is the most meaningful and actually trying to get change accomplished. So to do that, we are going to start sending out a lot of just a few surveys, which might take a while to get something specifically for the bio department, and continuing the science tech elective survey that we did last semester, just to continue to gauge feedback and try to improve the science departments, which don't really get as much attention as they're used to. We're also trying to see what we do about people that are in the business school but don't necessarily want to go into finance, like what career options we can do for them. As well as the same for Cal. Specifically, we were looking at music techs and their curriculum, as well as we implemented a trial of PEP 111 mechanics TAs for this semester. We're going to see if we can do the same for PEP 112 EMAT.
Good stuff. Right, Budget Committee.
Oh, wait. So we had our second meeting today, operating budget, question marks. Requested was this amount, recommended was this amount, presentation link here. This looked like SpongeBob font, so I really liked SpongeBob. That's pretty much it.
Right, Health and Wellness.
Hi everyone. So we're still working on the hand sanitizer stations. And Charlie and I will probably meet with Dean Nelson later this week to see where we can get those put in. I'm also still working on healthier vending machine options. And we'll reach out to Tony Luzzini to work with him on that. As a committee, we'll have a meeting this week, library room 209. Wow, I can't read, at 5 p.m. And this committee is my baby, and I've been the chair, but I'm looking for a new chair since I'm graduating. And I really want someone who's passionate about health and wellness and wants to keep this committee succeeding. So if you're interested, what day? Wednesday at 5 p.m. If you're interested in the Health and Wellness Committee, interested in being chair, please reach out to me. I would love to guide you before I leave. And that's it.
Great. Government and Community Relations. Matthew is not here. Matthew's the only one that will speak on that, I'm assuming. Or I can just read this. Right. Or is this is no update. Is this from the last week? Does anyone know?
Yes.
Right. Diversity and inclusion.
Last meeting, what's up? Renovation committee, we're booked and busy, we're doing a lot of stuff. So we met with Occupy Omega last week about my goods in this area. We also spoke at the residential education first staff meeting of the semester. That went really good too, there's something else to the residents. We're meeting with athletics tomorrow and speaking to their staff about the Restructuring Center and also about the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. So it's gonna be cool. We're still fighting for a Restructuring Center. We get 1,000 signatures. We're at 722 right now, which is like poppage or almost there. This is the last week to put into Restructuring Center, so like we need all hands on deck to get that last couple of signatures. We also need to start running the proclamation, which is gonna be kind of annoying, but yeah, if anybody wants to help with that, like, let me know. With the athletics meeting, we were able to partner with them. I'm gonna be table sitting at their season end basketball games to get signatures. It's a readout. It's gonna be Saturday, the 16th, the women's game at 2 and the men's game at 4. And yeah. And then what's next for us? We're looking into different things we can do for diversity and inclusion on campus. We have some tasks that we are working on, and we're submitting them back up and also start to ship them out. So let me know if you want to do that too. Yeah.
Great, good stuff. Housing Committee.
So we had our first meeting this past Monday. What we did is we set specific goals for stuff we need to be done. All the things we determined that needed to be made are in that tracking document right there. In the future, we're going to be planning seminars, publishing materials on the website. Our next meeting will be the 25th of February because of President's Day. It kind of delays us a little bit. Plus, it gives everybody time to make all the documents. Even if you're not in the committee, please feel free to help out, make anything you want. A lot of the documents are linked to other schools' websites that literally you just copy and paste. It's quite easy. Just got to change it a little bit. Shout outs to everyone who's helping.
Thank you. Auditing Committee.
So yeah, we are going to be voting on the bill tonight. You guys remember it was postponed from last week to tonight. I posted the bill in Slack in the general channel, but I just want to let you know that I did meet with the CSI. We had a lot of great discussion, and I created a set of amendments that I'm going to be proposing on one form. But actually, I have two sets of amendments. One, just in case the Public Records Act does not pass, and the second one, just in case the Public Records Act does pass, which would make some additional amendments to make it in compliance with that. So that's pretty much all I got.
Very good.
Okay.
Website Committee.
So it's me again. I just did a thing where I hosted the website today. So everyone could see all the work that was done over the past year with Tim Barrett. So if you want to check out all the work that's been done, it's that link right there. Hopefully we'll be working on it more, hosting it. The only tab that we have is the officials tab. So if you click on that and then click on anything, that's basically the entire website. This is all that was coded. So, yeah.
Great. Entertainment committee.
Okay. So for EC, I guess there wasn't a lot that they wanted to update us on, other than that the grad students are just lying on forms, but I guess that's it for them. I know Founders Day Ball is coming up in 2 weeks. Their past events were bumper cars, Bryant Park, I think both went well. They had a good amount of people, Coin and Kinky Boots, and then next week there's nothing for EC.
Very good. Arts and music. Anyone here to speak on that?
She's not here.
Right. Club sports.
She's also not here.
Electronics and gaming. Really no update. Media report.
I have no idea how few seniors are in the room, but if you're a senior and you're in the room, sign up for your senior portraits if you haven't already taken them. Beyond that, you produced a video. That's about it. Oh, pick up a copy of the student any newsstand around campus.
Yeah. Non-RSO subcommittee, no update. Professional societies.
Out in March, the election meeting is coming up soon. Probably going to be on President's Day, most likely. I know that sucks, but those are the events coming up. If anybody wants to run or has questions and is in a professional society and has held a position before, reach out to me. Cool.
Very good. Recreation.
No, pick up the events around 4.
Very cool. Religious and faith-based. Dante. No, sir. No faith. Special interests.
My dog's here. He's under the table. You can come say hi to him.
What's his name?
His name's Buddy. Hold him on sword. He's sleeping right now.
Hi, buddy.
President.
All right, so not new news. Committees within SGA, we're working on reworking them and seeing what we're going to do with committees in general. Registration, academic break, old news, senior design, still working on that. With the provost. New news, the cabinet and I have agreed that we're gonna make our office for religious spaces. We had a meeting with Mary Beth Murphy that went pretty well. I'm now meeting with every department at Stevens, which includes like literally everything, not like academic departments, like including like CJs and like the bookstore and stuff like that. And this is for me to get information from the staff and faculty and administration's perspective, because apparently that was like strongly harped upon. We talked about line item fighting, and this was us. We did this. Old SGA signed up for line item funding, which we can get rid of, but then no one else is going to pay for it. So we're trying to come up with a solution of how we are going to pay for that. Meeting with Dean Zhu about the engineering curriculum. We're going to rework through that and see if there's a better solution to the credits and mandatory classes. I emailed Gabby Guider about a smoke-free campus, and Dean Nielsen is actively working on that apparently. So I'm going to talk to him and stop in on Monday and check in with him. And we did our second to last rounds of interviewing for the new diversity educator, and as well as get the diversity signatures. Office hours, we are going to try to have it on Wednesday in Kitty. Last week I could not have them because Kitty was had classes in it apparently.
At what time?
At 3.
Great.
Yeah.
Vice President? Slide.
Okay, yep. So All right, so last of the committee had appointments today. I need you guys to approve these. We have Jake Milburn for Rules Committee, EJ Hanna for CLC, and then Jason Buckman for the ad hoc website. Under all of those, and then the other standing committees as well, we have the assignments today. The way I'm going to send out the sheet to all of you so you can see like what your individual ones are, and then who else for the committee heads is going to be on the different committees. Because we have so few senators right now, I put in basically a secondary committee for all of you that I would hope you would, dedicate time to. It's not currently a requirement. It's something we've toyed with in the past. So, we could always propose a bill to add that on as a mandatory thing, just to make sure that committees are having enough people to get their stuff done. And then I put like a tertiary section just to kind of list some of the other interests that people put down in the form. So by no means do you guys have to get involved with those committees, but if there's like any big projects coming up or time that needs to be dedicated for something, and any of the committee heads are looking for some extra help, I figure that would be helpful in case they want to reach out to some people to see if they want to help with anything. So that's how that's going to go. I'll send that out to all you guys tonight. Other than that, we're trying to figure out why fraternity midnight was pushed back. This is mostly as a housing issue. So essentially what's happened is because Stevens has a huge influx of freshmen this past year that are now going to be looking for housing, and combined with the fact that Hayden is going to be shut down for next year and only freshmen will be living on campus, ResLife pushed up the required date to sign up for Stevens housing, which is fine because it gives them more time to make sure that they have housing for everybody. But the problem that they're running into is that fraternity midnight is the same day of that deadline. So there are freshmen that are interested in Greek housing but won't be able to possibly live in Greek housing depending on how that's going, because most of the fraternities are doing their housing lotteries before that date in case their members need to do Stevens housing. So I'm probably going to set up a meeting with Malcolm just to figure out what's going on with that. And see if they can possibly push fraternity midnight up for next spring, so this isn't an issue again. Other than that, I've been trying to set up a meeting with George Calhoun to talk business school stuff. This is just general stuff that's been going on. Follow up for the professional pipeline initiative that we've been working on for a while, see if we can get that anywhere. Other than that, there's like a couple curriculum things that we wanted to talk about. Some stuff that Jason and I had been thinking of with interschool relations, just trying to get more collaboration between different schools, especially with like senior D, so that's a little smoother. And then there were a couple complaints about teachers that we'd heard as well. So that, again, the PR stuff, now that there's a committee, we're gonna try and just settle these email things. And then just touching from the lunch that we had with Mary Beth on Friday, I'm going to be planning meetings with for Varden and Sarah Klein. Sarah Klein, just to touch base with her, go over a couple ideas that I had and see what she thinks. And then the meeting I want to set up with for Varden is just to kind of talk rankings. That's something that Jason and I had looked into when we were running, and just trying to figure out how the school could possibly focus on something other than rankings and improving the school, but still have like kind of qualitative or quantitative measures for that so they can meet their goals. So I think that's it for me.
Great. Also, we're trying to move this meeting along. Most of you are paying attention, but for those of you who aren't, please just keep your attention up there to work. Or on SGA related stuff, instruction. All right, VPSI.
So the new organization process interest period has been extended to go until February 15th, which is this Friday. Since the official Stevens announcement released late, OSL also sent me the reorganized student organization manual, but the financial policy is still not updated that I know of. If you need to access Humphrey's basement storage, then you need an OSL escort during the workday, but otherwise they're working on getting card access, which is a quote from Dean Nielsen, quoted by Daniel. And then my inbox buzz phrases of the week have been new club, and I've attached a copy of the NOP to this message for your perusal.
Great. VP of Finance.
Success treasures like my videos. I want to make more because They're very helpful. Visual stuff is easier than words sometimes. I was thinking about making a nice drive folder for treasurers too, like in general, like information, like here's all that information here. And like they could share it like as a transition from like one treasurer to the other. Make sure that like new treasurers like meet with me, like in the case like Stevens Christian Fellowship reached out to me and then like they were like, we're stage 4, what do we do? And I helped them and they looked at my videos and they thought it was helpful. I am not doing links anymore. I have made a nice folder with, it's gonna be from now and forever with like my weekly budgets. Those are like from previous weeks. Go back. This is a nice spreadsheet of all the AFRs, like approved, denied, and it goes by each one, and it has a link to the folder corresponding to the AFRs. And the links to the AFRs, and then it goes to reallocations are right here. So, no more links. They will not be sent. This is it. Just add to your drive.
Give academic affairs.
What's up, everyone? Hope you all had a nice weekend. Bunch of stuff happened this week and is coming up. I met with Dean Zhu and Christopher Church separately. They're both great. Dean Zhu spoke about how the engineering curriculum as a whole hasn't been looked at in 21 years, so it's something that she definitely wants to pursue, and we said we would be more than happy to help her with that and look over that. Christopher Church is amazing. He's great. If anyone here is an engineer and hasn't gone to the center where they can, the advising center, I highly recommend it because I went later on and did my own schedule. It was great. I met with Vice Provost Parisi. He's only here till October if everything goes right with hiring the full-time new Vice Provost, but we'll see. He talked to me about a lot of his goals. A lot of them are great. One of the things I brought up was the CS lab fee issue that keeps popping up. He says that it's been raised, but he is unsure what the provost is doing, so I'll be bringing that up at my meeting with him next week. He said that it should just be re-encoding the course, so we'll see how that goes. I'll bring it up with the provost next week. The School of Business Advisory Board form was finally sent out after I had to go and annoy Brendan Griffin to send it out for me, but he did. We are sitting at a nice 27 responses, which is great. So next week or the week after, depending on people in the business school's availability, we're going to be sitting down and going through them and picking the 8 students to serve on the board, and then hopefully next meeting or their first meeting will be before the end of the month. This week I have a bunch of meetings. Dean Masood tomorrow, it's kind of like a the SSE advisory board meeting is Wednesday, I believe. So he just kind of wanted to sit down, talk about what's going to happen, stuff like that. I'm also meeting with Dean Thomas on Wednesday to discuss setting up a Cal advisory board, among other things that Maddie is going to bring up about the school about the College of Arts and Letters. I'm also meeting with the provost. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, CS lab fees being one of them, more advisory board stuff. Hopefully, SES was going to have their first advisory board meeting this week, but the dean's schedule changed, so that's up in the air, but we will see. And then I also have SES curriculum review meeting and an AOA meeting. That's it.
Great. Secretary?
Okay. Hi, everybody. So we're in the middle of vacancy elections right now. There was some problems with IT for the first round. But right now, today was the last day for nominees to get their forms in. So we have 3 people with that, and the portal for voting will open the 15th of February because IT now wants the names 5 days beforehand. So the next nomination cycle is going to be the 18th. So tell people if they're interested in running that 18th they can start submitting their forms. And then updating the bylaws. Once rules has a head, we'll be able to do that. I know some people have reached out, which is really helpful on how to do that, so thank you. We will be looking into that. And then tomorrow I have a meeting with Chris Shermansky to go over DuckLink and just organize that better because I think it looks a little intimidating right now with all the documents. And districts are coming this week. I'm in the process of making them. And then I wanted to know if we should move the meeting for next weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna know.
Yeah.
Monday.
So-
Next week's meeting is gonna be on Monday, not Sunday. So y'all can go home, enjoy your family.
And I was gonna say we should get like dinner as a Senate Friday, but I don't know if people will be here. So maybe we'll do that another weekend. Okay, that's all.
Alright. SGA shout-outs. Shout out to Maddie for making good 4 minutes. Shout out to Rami because why not? Shout out to Elena for dealing with OSL and all their shenanigans. Props to you, girl. And shout out to Nina for holding 2 CSI meetings in 1 month. Very good. All right. We are in red bills. So in this section we have the Public Records Act. We also have the Auditing Committee Creation Act, which was postponed. So hopefully that's other motions. William?
I move to approve resolution S19S003, the Public Records Act.
Right. It has been moved and seconded. We are now in discussion on the Public Records Act. Mark?
I mean, the same thing that I said last week, pretty much just ensures
Speak up, please.
Same thing that I said last week, pretty much ensures transparency. It's important, especially given the criticisms, that we just almost like hold ourselves accountable to the student body and just, let it know what we're doing.
Can you zoom in on the VM?
Can you read that? I don't know why it's so delayed. All right, there you go.
I went back and forth in my mind about this bill a couple of times, but after thinking about it, I'm in full support of this bill because I wasn't here last meeting, but the gist of what I got was some things are confidential and we don't want those in minutes. But we did the same thing with the Board of Trustees, and they just release a bulletin of things that they are allowed to release to the student body. So I think it's kind of a bad precedent if we say Board of Trustees, we want you to be transparent with the student body, but our own SGA governing body isn't.
Right?
So, I mean, the thought that the cabinet had is we provide our updates on the slides every weekend to you guys, which pretty much covers everything that we're doing. So we thought that having specific minutes that are in depth and everything is just unnecessary, and it goes into a lot of detail that, like I said, even if we just went and withheld the stuff that we weren't allowed to share with the students because of those reasons. I mean, it's literally the same thing that we're putting in our slides. I mean, if you guys really want it, we can do it, but that was kind of the point that we were getting at. If there's something that we're doing, it's going to be on our slides.
Liam?
I just want to say that for the Auditing Committee coming along the way, I strongly believe that this would make running the Auditing Committee and just the overall function of the Auditing Committee harder, because sometimes a lot of bad things have to be said about organizations that aren't performing well or aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And this point was strongly reiterated to me last semester by Anthony and Dakota, that some of the meetings should remain private because it would because it would allow the members to speak quite frankly and objectively about the organizations, even when it's tough. And as far as transparency from the committee, it's already written into the bill that I proposed, and even with the amendments, that the Senate will be updated every step along the way with regards to what RSOs are being audited and what RSOs will be audited, what's kind of going on with the committee. But just the actual minutes themselves and assigning certain statements to certain people, that might make the functioning of the committee as a whole much more difficult.
Alina?
I just think that minutes don't necessarily have to be word for word. When I do committee meetings, I don't do direct lines of what people said. I just do a summary of what we discussed and then list action items at the bottom. So even people's there's different ways to take minutes. You don't necessarily always have to do direct dialogue transcribe. You can just summarize.
That's pretty much just our reports now. We go into our meetings, we have to talk about these pretty personal things sometimes, and it's we have to make hard decisions, and we have these meetings with higher up people that tell us and give us advice, and it's things that we discuss about that, and it's just it's hard for us to not hurt feelings that way, because I mean, I meet with Leo and Dean Nielsen on a regular basis, and he tells me all these things that we're looking forward to doing, we might do, we're looking into this. I mean, use the smoke-free campus, for example, like, we might do this, but it's like, if we release all the things that we're gonna talk about, and then somebody catches wind that, like, we're working on it, and then we end up not being able to go through with it and pursuing it, then it would just fall apart and not really be beneficial to anyone. So it's just like, it makes our lives easier for us not to do this.
From what I understand, that happens in a cabinet meeting. A cabinet meeting is more of an informal setting where the cabinet can meet and discuss new plans for the school. And then, as they said, they present what they talked about in their meetings on slides already. Like we do weekly reports. So that in itself is what they talked about at the meeting. If there was minutes taken down, sometimes there's very personal and kind of like chaotic conversations that happen in cabinet meetings that don't need to be documented. They do a sufficient job at giving the school the information that we should be listening to or hearing from. So I don't think this would be effective since it's already happening.
Mark?
To like almost like go with the chaotic thing, like at times Senate meetings can be very chaotic, and the same sort of thing can also happen where like somebody will talk about something for the Senate, like, oh, something we're working on, and then it ends up just not coming to fruition. And the same thing can happen whether in a cabinet setting or in a Senate setting. And I think it would be good just to showcase even like both things publicly, saying, hey, this is what we're working on, even if it doesn't come to efforts, hey, this is what we're trying to do at the very least.
Phil?
Well, I understand that this is good for like transparency. I honestly don't see a need to like publish the minutes because like the cabinet tells us everything like at the weekly meetings, and I feel if someone is really like if they are so inclined and they do want to learn more like about like what's going on, they can just reach out to the cabinet directly. Like I don't see a need of having to like publish the meeting minutes. Like we publish our minutes, but like who outside the SGA?
Just sort of a follow-up. I know it does sound like a good idea to have, like, this is what we're working on to show people, but there are things that administration comes to us and says, please do not tell anyone this yet. We're not ready for this to be out in the public yet. So while it is good for us to be transparent, and I think we are with our presentation in the beginning, there are some things that the administration asks us specifically to not reveal yet because they're just not ready for the student body to know about it yet. So that's kind of why we don't not want people to know what we're talking about. It's more just a lot of times we've been asked to not reveal it yet.
And just like echo what some of you were just saying already, like the things that should be public information are on the slides, and then like I don't see a need for more than that.
All right, I'm just going to remind people, please wait until the person is finished speaking until you raise your hand. Right.
I just want to say, like, we've been talking about this for a few weeks at this point, and I feel like any concerns and people in favor of it have like already voiced their opinions. So if you feel like your mind isn't going to be changed, let's just vote on this. You know, if you feel we need more discussion, then discuss it more. But I'm not getting anyone changing opinions here.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move the previous question. All in favor of closing discussion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Right. The question is on the adoption of the resolution S19S3, Public Records Act. All in favor of adopting this bill, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Right, the noes have it. The motion does not pass, and the Public Records Act is not adopted. All right, back to the docket. Red bills. Liam?
I move to approve S19S002, the Auditing Committee Creation Act. I posted it in the Slack channel under General. I'm also going to be posting a document with some amendments that I will be moving to make. Let me just list it there right now.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We are now in discussion on the Auditing Committee Creation Act. I have doubts that people have read through this, so Liam, could you give us a summary?
Yes, sure. So, how long ago I discussed 2 weeks ago when it was originally read. So right now there's no formal procedure for auditing in place, and we don't have the accountability form anymore, so how do we really know if the RSOs are doing what they're supposed to do? I just posted in the same Slack channel a document with a lot of proposed amendments. If you'll hold that up, so I can.
When you move amendments.
Okay,
We're in discussion.
Okay, I'll just make the amendment now. I move to make all the following amendments that no, that's not it. That is it. Okay, let me go through these amendments one by one. So some of these are just clerical amendments.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded. We are now in discussion on the amendment to this bill.
Some of these are just clerical amendments, like changing the X to 2, or changing the date to the 10th of February. So let me go to the real body of the amendments. So I had a meeting with the Committee on Student Interest, and they felt that they weren't really as involved in the auditing process as they should have been, and I agreed. And some of the things like that were in the Oops bill that was passed last semester that concerned this committee and the function of this committee I were not aware of, so those were brought up to me. So I made a lot of changes there. So for the review session for an audit, it's going to be a meeting between the CSI, the VPF, and the committee. And in that meeting, we'll be voting on different RSOs we put on a list that will be audited. And then we'll just and once they're on the list, and once they're approved and on the list, then they will be audited. And for the auditing procedures, some committee heads felt that there wasn't enough, that there was too much ambiguity with the actual auditing process, and there wasn't enough detail in there. So I just had to include some elements that are common to all audits, like meetings between the committee and the e-board members, and all those meetings will include the subcommittee heads. And well, for section E, I didn't know, but some of that actually conflicted with our bylaws, like what I said. Concerned the Oops bill that was passed last semester. And you go down a little bit more to the criterion section. Yeah, for the active section, as it was pointed out, determining whether an RSO is active or not is not really the job of the auditing committee. It's more the job of the CSI as a whole. So I took that out and kind of redistributed some of the indicators to the other 2 points there. Some of them I took out because little or no attempt has been made to train for each e-board members. We can't really determine that. That's not something we can quantitatively determine. No attempts have been made to recruit new members. We can't really determine that. There's no way to really quantitatively determine that. Inability to communicate with the subcommittee head, that's more
I'd like to interrupt you for a minute. I expect everyone's attention to be up here, please. Thank you.
Inability to communicate with the subcommittee head, that's more, but if they are responsible or not, because you have to do that as per our bylaws. Can you go down a little bit more? Now, the rest of it is more like just kind of structural things, like determining who can be on the committee, like who can be committee members. It's open to all officials of the SGA, so like cabinet, senators, subcommittee heads, anyone. The privacy section, I only included that just in case a RSO comes to us with some sort of very personal information, like if there was some sort of fight between 2 of the e-board members that was very personal. They don't want that in the official report, but it still relates to the audit. Then we'll consider a request not to put that in there. But of course, we can't not have anything that relates to them violating any bylaws, of course. And with that pretty much sums up my discussion of the proposed amendments here.
Great. Is there any other discussion? Vic?
So you know what sections is for criteria for auditing? You crossed out a bunch of the things, and so would you just have to shift up the numbers? Because it starts at 3, then it goes 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, then I'm shifting.
Any other discussion? This is a pretty substantive bill and amendment.
Are we in discussion on making
We
these
are in
amendments?
discussion
Or?
on the amendment, not on the bill itself. Please keep all discussion germane to the amendment.
It's a lot of amendments, I know, but please just try to bear with me on that. All of these amendments did go through a lot of discussion between me and the CSI and other people like EPF, EPSI, over the past couple months. So,
Great. Ben?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we have met with the CSI recently and we went through all the details. And
5 minutes have passed. If no one has anything to add, we will be moving to the question. Are we ready? All right. The question is on the adoption of the proposed amendments to the Auditing Committee Creation Act. All in favor of the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. The ayes have it. The motion passes, and the amendments are made. Is that this document?
What's the number? Oh, Jim, no, that's not it. It's number 61. No, the second from the left. That one. Yeah, that's
Right.
the final bill now.
So this is the bill as it stands.
No, I can post it in Slack right now.
So we are now in discussion on the Auditing Committee Creation Act. Brian.
Okay, so I don't have like a problem with like any of the stuff. Like I think we need a process and procedure here, and I think that was the whole point of having this ad hoc committee. And I'm glad that Liam has taken the initiative to like go through all this and meet with all the people and like set up the process. The one piece that concerns me is under section E.
Guys, I just posted in Slack.
Part 1. So under the membership voting and quorum section, that first bullet point saying the committee shall consist of 5 officials of the SGA, one by the VPO and then approved by the Senate by the way of a simple majority, with one being designated the chair. This leaves it like open to who those people can be. Most likely, I feel like it makes sense to have one of them be the VPSI, one of them be the VPF, and then to figure out who the rest of them are going to be from there. But I feel like it would make more sense to designate these people off the bat and say, okay, like who are they going to be? Because I'm looking at it and you know I don't want to dedicate senators that could be working in other areas to this, and at the same time, like I think the people that would make the most sense to be on this committee are people that are members of the CSI or the budget committee already, because they're the ones that are most aware of what's happening with these matters. So I think the best bet would be to kind of just designate it off the bat, and you know, if we think the committee should have 5 people or whatever it is, say who these people are. Personally, I think it should be the VPSI, the VPF, and then maybe like 2 members of the CSI and 2 members of the budget committee. If anyone has any other ideas, I think that's fine, but I feel that one of the senators should probably propose an amendment just to specify who's going to be on this.
All right. We're in discussion.
I guess, yeah, it would make sense to have the VPSI and VPF be automatic members of this committee because they'll already be working closely with the committee. I'm not in favor of just having the other 2 or 3 members. Well, the 3rd member has to be a senator because the chair has to be a senator as per our bylaws. But I'm not in favor of having the other 2 members just automatically be like subcommittee heads or automatically be senators, because I kind of want to leave it open to who's ever interested in the committee. So, although I will make the motion to make the amendments. So I move to amend the committee shall consist of 5 officials to the committee shall consist of 3 officials, and then at the end of that paragraph, add the sentence, the VPF and the VPSI shall automatically be members of the committee.
All right, I hear a second. Could you please put that in the Slack? The exact language.
Are we in discussion on that now?
We are. Right.
So the only thing I want to say with that is if you change it to 3, technically the VPSI and the VPF are officials of the SGA. So the committee could, in that case, consist of just the VPSI, the VPF, and 1 other person. So I would leave, in that case, leave it at 5 and just say that 2 of the members of the committee, or say 5 or 3 people other than the standing members listed there.
Okay, I rescind my motion.
You can also change your motion.
I rescind it anyway. Let's make a new one.
Right. Well, I've already said the motion, so with the Senate's approval, he can withdraw his motion. All those in favor of letting him withdraw the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Right, the motion is withdrawn. We're back in discussion.
I move to add the following sentence at the end of that first paragraph in section E. The sentence shall be, the VPF and the VPSI shall automatically be members of the committee.
Is there a second? All right, it is moved and seconded. Can you please put that in the slide?
Yes,
Need the exact language. The amendments, motions, channels.
Oh, here.
All right, so we are now in discussion on the amendment to insert at the end of, where is it, at the very end of the sentence?
At the end of the first paragraph, section D. So end of number 1.
As a standalone sentence?
Yep.
All right, so we are now in discussion on that amendment. Can everyone read it? Does everyone have it on their laptops? Right. We are in discussion on the amendment. Alan?
Second.
All right, it is moved and seconded to move the previous question. All those in favor of closing discussion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All those in favor of amending the bill to include the sentence at the end of paragraph E1, the VPF and the VPSI shall automatically be members of the committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion passes and the amendment is made, and it will be recorded in the minutes as such. And could you please update, I guess you guys can figure it out later. Okay. We are now in discussion on the bill, the Auditing Committee Creation Act. Dakota.
For clarification, in today's minutes, I would like to point out that section 6.2 of our bylaws does state that unless otherwise specified in a committee definition, each committee shall have one chair, which shall be a senator. Therefore, a senator does not have to be the chair of this committee if the Senate chooses.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
How is the review initialized? This is a question.
Can you speak up, please?
How is the review initialized? Because I do not see in here where that process starts.
Yep.
It'll just happen at a CSI meeting where where a subcommittee head will just bring up like, hey, this organization concerns me for so-and-so. I think we should audit them for so-and-so reason.
And I believe that is an extension of a power that the SGA already has.
As a pleb, when I read through this, when I get to section B, part 2, I'm very confused because it says different audits may have different timelines, but all audits must follow the 4-step process listed below, and it does not say where this process is listed.
Liam?
It's just the process listed in point 3.
Bullet point 3 has 5 points.
But it describes the 4-section process.
Does anyone want to make a motion to clarify the language here to say the step process laid out in section D3? It's not necessary. We are in discussion. All right, if no one has anything else to say, are we ready for the question? The question is on the adoption of the Auditing Committee Creation Act. All those in favor of adopting this bill say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and the Auditing Committee is now instantiated. Back to the docket.
I move to approve the recommendations of the budget committee.
Second.
All right, it is moved and seconded.
Here's this week's budget, and AFRs. You guys can access this through the folder as you choose. So the first one is from ASN. So it was requested $4,155.08 and recommended by the budget committee $2,311.08. ASEM asked for $50 for GBM food. It was approved by the budget committee. Sorry. Reallocation, for Redshift, $52.25. They didn't show up, so we denied it. Gearin Triangle, the first AFR was $217.78 for duck hunt. This is their first event that they have for this semester. It was approved. It's like a bunch of like ducks and whatnots for that event for Spirit Week. Gearin Triangle's second AFR for their second event, Quack Cab. It's $217.78. Again, ducks and prizes for them being on shuttles and moving around, and giving them out to undergraduates. Approved by the budget committee. Gearin Triangle's third one. We amended this one because they were initially ordering off of Amazon, but in order to order through the catalog, you have to put orders in like 14 days prior. Otherwise, it's not guaranteed to. Well, either way, it's not guaranteed to deliver, even if you put it 14 days beforehand. But if you put it 14 days, like less than 14 days, it's like something about returns. They're not allowed according to the current student organization manual. So we amended it so they're going to buy pool noodles and inflatables from Target. So it ended up being cheaper too. That was approved, amended and approved. Their fourth event, Ducks on Display. This is when people with talents perform for other people without talents, or that don't want to put their talents on display. It was approved. LA's first AFR was for banner and stickers. They did not supply a link, nor exactly how much on the AFR is for the banner and stickers. So it lacked detail, so we denied it, asked them to come back with more detail. Next one, LA's second one. This is for physical plant. They are hosting Carnival in Babbia Atrium. They confirmed that they have Babbia Atrium. So we thought it would make sense to have them have physical plant because they have the room booking confirmation. That's approved. Poker Club. This is it's like weekly GBMs, but it's like once a month. It's very confusing. But they usually get pizza, $100, like not $100. They get 8 pies for each GBM. They already had one this month, and I think in January they said, so they already spent their allowed $800 for this month, and there's 3 months technically left. May's like about a week, but that still counts as a month. So we moved it from $370 to $282 to make it around $100 per month for the last 3 months. Stevens Christian Fellowship, they asked to amend it. They only wanted money for their GBM food. They originally budgeted for GBM food and 2 events. They are recently made Step 4 RSOs. This is their first AFR. Their second AFR was for a catering order that they put in and charged the SGA account without knowing they weren't supposed to do that because they didn't have money in their account. It was approved because just to clear out the negative, but we do still want some like disciplinary action towards them because this is not allowed, but that is yet to have been discussed. I actually put this AFR in with the treasurer because I felt like it should be done because he put in the catering order without me. He watched my video on how to put it in, and some other treasurer gave him like the account number and he charged it. Seeps asked for a banner. It was $37.49. They had a coupon. I liked it. It was approved. SITTV asked for a couch for $1,394. I was originally not supplied with a link on the AFR, so I looked up couches on IKEA, and I found a $300 couch, and I liked it because it was black, and it was cheap. So their AFR was denied for their couch. They sent me a link afterwards. I call this once for the amount of $105. It's insurance for the performers that they're going to have. It's Stevens Stand-Up Society. It's a comedian. According to our new policies, we need insurance for our vendors, so they got that. That was approved. Wix was not here. This is for their copy and code. That was denied. Torch sent an AFR for something with like rainbow flags, like the vendor changed their policy. Now they're having, instead of, they originally budgeted, thought that it was one thing for, I think, 200 flags. Now the policy changed. So they need an additional $41. That's it. Any
We are in discussion. Thank you. Does anyone have any amendments? Anything they'd like to get off their chest? All right. If no one has any discussion, are we ready for the question? The question is on whether to approve the recommendations of the Budget Committee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and the recommendations of the Budget Committee are approved. Back to the docket, which I guess is no, we have no unread bills, other business and management secretary. All right, we have some appointments. Mark?
I move to approve EJ Hannon as the chair of Games Select Committee.
It is moved and seconded to approve E.J. Hanna as the head of the Campus Life Committee. E.J., would you like to make your spiel?
Yeah.
Is the blanket necessary?
No.
It's for outfit day.
It's okay, I mean, you can wear this.
Alright. Hi everyone, my name is EJ. So I joined SGA last semester through John Darlack, who happened to be my peer leader for pre-orientation guide and peer leader. I ended up joining the CLC because of him, and I stayed because I found that the initiatives were really cool in the sense that you can physically see what you're changing around campus, which was really fun. Sorry, I'm kind of using this to guide me. When he left, it kind of felt like there was a void in the sense that there's physically no chair to the committee, and then the atmosphere was different. So I kind of want to try and bring that back, you know, fill the voids in both senses, try and make Campus Life Committee fun again. In terms of initiatives, I don't want to give up what he was doing. I want to continue efforts on sustainability and artwork on campus, and I already started working with Alina, or trying to, on that. But I also want to try and, since we're tight on budget, push more so for a sense of community around campus, and I want to do that through things like group study spaces, for example. I already recently did like the girl hours at the gym, which I'm working on because apparently they gave, or campus recreation gave us a hard time. So we'll get to it, but that's about it for my spiel. You guys have any questions?
Yes. Any questions for EJ? You can please step out for a second. Thank you. All right. Jason?
I would just like to say a couple things. I've been with EJ throughout this process as his roommate. So I've been there when he was interviewing with Ryan Tom for the position. I was there when he was brainstorming all the potential initiatives. And I can say that he's really passionate about this position. And he's been working on this for a very long time, and I think he'll do a great job.
Any other discussion? All right, are we ready for the question? The question is on the approval or the confirmation of E.J. Hannon to the chair, head of the Campus Life Committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and E.J. Hanna is now the head of the CLC. These are the other appointments.
Move to appoint Jason Buckman as the chair of the website committee.
All right, it is moved and seconded to confirm Jason Buckman as the head of the website committee. Do we we are now. Would you like to give your spiel?
Sure. I kind of wasn't expecting this, but I was working on a bit of the website today, and professionally, I work as a freelance graphic and web designer. So for a living, I make websites, and it was really bothering me how we didn't have one and how it had stagnated. So I just figured that I could help work on it and potentially finish it, get it hosted, and get it up and running. That's all.
Any questions for Jason?
What previous programming experience do you have?
Not very much. I'm going to be looking for a lot of help, especially from Ben and Alan, hopefully, to help out with this, as long as anyone else who wants to help. My main goal is to just get it finished, get it done, get it up, and then we can go from there.
Right. EJ?
Do you have like an estimation on how long this would take?
Well, since we're not starting from scratch and there's already code there, it's going to take a little bit to figure out what Tim was doing with the code. So that's up in the air. If I was just doing it from scratch, you could probably get done in about a week. But we're going to have to work with PR for a lot of content, and hopefully it will be up very soon, very quickly.
Right. Are there any other questions for Jason? If not, could you please step out for a second? Sure. Thank you. All right. Discussion on the confirmation of Jason Buckman to head of the website committee. Mark?
I think he's qualified. Just personally, from a bylaws or like defining documents perspective, I'm unsure if he's allowed to hold 2 committee chair positions, because as it says in the Constitution, Article 1, unless specified otherwise, no member of the student body shall hold more than one of the positions in the SGA defined herein.
What was the section again?
Article 1. It's lines 19 and 20.
Line 17 and 20.
Unless otherwise specified.
Only members of the student body, or no member of the student.
At the end, the last sentence.
All right. So according to our Constitution, unless specified otherwise, no member of the student body shall hold more than one of the positions of the SGA defined herein. I think that's a valid concern. Anyone else want to say something about that?
I don't know for like a name, but was anyone else at all interested in like website?
Yeah, so Alan had reached out to me, but we hadn't really talked in a while, and he hadn't said much, so I know he was... What? That's no problem. Jason had just reached out to me and was really interested, so I did not realize that. I thought it wasn't an issue because it's just an ad hoc committee. So that's my bad right there, but... yeah, no, he expressed the most interest, and like as you can see, he's already been doing stuff with it. So, yeah, I don't know what else to put there.
That's also, it's true that it is an ad hoc committee and not necessarily defined in the bylaws. So it's not necessarily defined therein.
So if ad hoc committees are created for temporary needs of the Senate, then will be dissolved after their task is complete, then would it be acceptable to the Senate to appoint Jason as the head of this temporary committee to complete the task, to be dissolved after it is done?
Lonnie? Could you speak up, please?
Sorry. That provision was in the SGA Constitution even before under this version. The intent was to not allow anyone to have more than one of the positions defined in the Constitution, not within bylaws or anywhere else, and it's always been interpreted that way. Obviously, it's not my place to interpret it anymore.
All right. We don't. Ryan?
So to clarify, the point is that like somebody can't hold, say, a Senate and cabinet position, or and like something like that.
Rami?
Someone cannot be parliamentarian and be assigned to the positions in the Constitution.
Okay.
All right. So I believe it would be okay for him to hold this position. EJ?
Like you said, it's going to be like a week if he was starting from scratch. So I imagine if he has something and he has to understand how it's done, it's not going to be much longer. So I don't think this is going to be a long-term committees, and I'm okay with that.
All right. Any other discussion? No one has anything else to add? Are we ready for the question? The question is on the confirmation of Jason Buckman, the head of the website committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, the ayes have it, the motion passes, and Jason Buckman is now chair of the website committee. Right. There's one remaining appointment. Would anyone like to move to confirm? EJ?
Motion to appoint Jake Milburn to chair of Rules Committee.
Second.
Second. It is moved and seconded. Jake, would you like to give your spiel?
Sure.
It's optional. You have to answer questions.
Alright, so I was not prepared for speech giving whatsoever. But Rules Committee is, to me, one of the most important parts because it is more or less making sure that people are, that committees and clubs are established in such a way that they can be sustainable. And I think that it's very important to monitor the exact wording of the constitutions. And yes, it does become a very verbose task. And pouring through the same 5-page document 160 different times just to get the wording precise, just to get the wording perfect, is something I'm more than happy to do. Because I want each and every club founded here to continue being here for the next 150 years.
Any questions for Jake? All right, seeing no questions, please step out for a second. Thank you. All right. Any discussion on Jake? All right, Jason?
We need the rules committee, and I think this is a good start to putting more senators.
Any other discussion? All right, are we ready for the question? The question is on the confirmation of Jake Milburn to head of the Rules Committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, the ayes have it, the motion passes, and Jake Milburn is the new head of the Rules Committee. Discussion. Ryan?
All right, now that we got committee heads, I'm going to send y'all your assignments.
Are you just sending out emails to people now?
No, I'm going to send the sheet to the officials channel.
All right. Are you going to read them off, or is everyone just going to look at what they got?
Yeah, so I'll explain. So, still load. Okay, so if you look at the assignments page, next to your name, it lists like what your assignments are. So the primary one is the one that you like have to fulfill for your requirements. Like I said, we're gonna look into possibility of like a secondary requirement, just because shit has to get done. Pardon my language. But yeah, so there's that, and then again for the committee heads, feel free to look through on your list. If you go to the committee rosters, this shows everyone that is listed under each committee. So the green means that that's your primary committee. If it's blue, that's the secondary, and then purple is tertiary. I've added everyone for tertiary to anything that they included on their form, except CLC if it wasn't your first choice, just because like everybody had CLC on their form somewhere, and that list would have been like 20 people long. So if you didn't get your first choice, I'm sorry. I tried to work it out where everybody got like hopefully their second choice at least, or something there. If you have like any serious concerns, or like your mind is like completely changed and you really want to pursue something else, reach out to me. But you guys are definitely welcome to get involved with as many committees as you want to. Yeah, that's how I have it set up. So, any questions on that?
Are y'all pumped? This is like the meat of the SGA. This is what y'all do. And this is what's going to make this steam engine rumble. Sorry. We're not a steam engine. We're a quantum engine. All right. Are you good with this? Everyone got their assignments. Everyone can see this. Everyone's super hyped.
Woo!
Cool.
I have one question.
Yes.
Just one. What happened to column K?
So that's just like a division between the standing committees and the ad hoc committees.
Oh, okay.
Website and housing are not standing committees. I just have them there in case the people run, in case Jason, now that he's running both of those, has anyone that he wants to like reach out to help with stuff.
Okay. I thought it was just there for accident.
Nope.
Right.
Point of clarification from before, I know we had talked, the smoke-free campus thing came up earlier. That's something I started like 2 years ago, and it's taken that long, and still will take long because of all the legalities of having this be something that incorporates the whole entire school. So it's been with like the legal counsel of the school for a very long time, and they're still working on it. So that's why it has already started.
Jason?
Speaking on that, you actually sent me something that it's like illegal to smoke within 25 feet of a campus building.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's more of like, why is it not being like applied?
Because when I noticed this issue a while ago, we never had a smoking policy, like anything like that. They were just practices that obviously no one took into consideration. So instead of just doing a small step and making just, I'm probably using the wrong words, but instead of making the small step and just changing the one thing to 25 feet, and have that take forever, and then make a smoke-free campus, we just went with trying to make a smoke-free campus. But that 25 feet rule is within the verbiage of the bill that I proposed, or like the contract that I proposed to the school. Like we can only do so much now. It's been in the hands of higher people for a really long time. But they understand that like it's something that we want as students to seek to get change. And we're working on it. You know, every time I ask Dina something about it, it's like, yeah, they're working on it. But it's always a positive thing that, like there was an incentive now, or like earlier last semester when I talked to him about it, he said that the school is taking on an incentive from New Jersey State, for the state of New Jersey, about making campus smoke-free. So they're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible.
Good stuff. Go back to discussion. Mark?
All right, if nobody else has anything before I start rambling a bit, because that's probably what's going to come off as to a lot of people. So I sent this out earlier today. I don't know if people read it. I sent it out a little bit late. Can you open up the PDF at the bottom, please? Yeah, so I've just been thinking, there's a lot of just thoughts about like the way that we run things here, just the entire structure about how we run the SGA as a whole, it kind of doesn't fit. Like we have two, so to speak, main roles. We have like being oversight with the clubs, dealing with that, and serving as a branch for student advocacy. And when people join the SGA, they tend to join for only one of those two reasons. It's not usually both. They're like, oh, I want to do student advocacy, but wait, I have to approve club stuff, or vice versa. So it's kind of like a split goal that we have. And this kind of like proposal for how to redesign the SGA does kind of try to aim to solve some of those issues. So I'm just going to start on the right side because that side is the easiest to explain. So the right side is the side that deals with all the clubs. So the members on this side would be one person from each subcommittee, hence like a subcommittee rep, and then say roughly 3 to 4 people elected per grade. Each one of them would be assigned to one of 4 committees that deals primarily with clubs, whether it be rules, the new RSO process, budgeting, or audit. This group of people, which I will dub the club parliament, elects vice president of student interest, who will then appoint a vice president of finance. So that side deals with everything related to clubs, which is frankly how a lot of students do interact with the SGA, and a reason why people do try to get involved. Next, I'm going to go towards the middle. So at the top we have the president, pretty much the same thing, you know. In this model I have it so that they run by themselves, but they could run with the vice president of student advocacy position, which I'll talk about that side a little bit more in a bit. So there's the president, functionally the same. They appoint a vice president of records. I just made a fancy name for secretary. They do the same sort of thing. They appoint 3 members of an oversight committee, which will serve to judge, so to speak, the legality of any sort of like legislation, parliament, whether clubs that have been found, so to speak, audited, if they're guilty, they'll make sure that they actually are, so to speak, like a judiciary check. And they'll appoint vice president of communications, which is essentially someone to do PR for the entire student government, because as you see, sometimes it falls on one person, and it would be easy to just have an individual person work on that effort. So then I'm going to move over to the left side of it. So this side we have the vice president of student advocacy. They're in charge of, as it stands, anything dealing with advocating for the students with administration, whether it's, for example, like gender neutral housing, all the diversity inclusion initiatives, academics. Basically anything that the SGA does that's not related with clubs is on this side. The vice president of student advocacy will then appoint 2 people, vice president of academic affairs, functionally the same job, vice president of student development, who basically oversees all the non-academic committees dealing with improving the student experience. Each one of these vice presidents would appoint a committee chair as listed below. I mean, it depends on whatever committees we have or is in the structure at the time. Now, the thing that makes this a little bit more unique is in this model, there are not senators. So instead, if you want to join one of the committees on the left side, you simply do. Say you want to help improve the academic experience, you can join AC or CAR just as a regular person. And the committee chairs are the ones who are going to have like the defined tasks and setting forth the responsibilities. This is, so to speak, inspired by the fact that people are interested in helping out in certain like areas that they want to improve the campus, but they don't want to deal with the commitment and strict regiment of being senators, whether it's simply sending out emails or they're only interested in one specific thing. This allows them to more easily get involved without, so to speak, the mind block of, oh, I'm not a senator, I can't get involved in this going forward. So that is probably the biggest change, aside from splitting it up and just trying to like separate it into the 2 defined roles and letting people, so to speak, join what they want to do to specifically improve the school.
Right? Okay, so I kind of read through this before. I definitely did not get everything, but I skimmed it at least. One of the things that I noticed was that, like, as it currently stands, rules does 2 things. They do check like club constitutions and everything, but they also kind of serve as a check for like all the legal documents and stuff for the SGA as well. So we may need, if we were going to follow this restructuring, to have another committee that would work like more on the SGA side. So maybe you can answer that. The other thing that I wanted to point out that I got out of this is like, I get that there's a lot of people that are kind of on one end or the other with like what they want to get involved with, but I feel like the current senator positions kind of already allow you to do one or the other. Like, yes, you do need to vote on certain things that may not fall under your specific interest, but I think senators, as it currently stands, kind of already are able to accomplish a lot of what they want to. And you know, all these committees that we have here that currently exist are open to the public. So, you know, maybe we can work on helping out PR and like trying to push that this semester and getting more non-senators involved. But I think, if the goal is to get more people involved from on campus, that's something that we can push for even without a restructuring, and it's something that we've, haven't been able to do in the past. So this makes me nervous in that if we were to restructure this and we don't have senators, senators are held accountable by like the requirements that are expected of them. This would leave no accountability whatsoever and could end up where you have these committee heads that are chairing these committees that nobody is showing up to, and then nothing gets done. So.
Going off of the point that I don't know, that people aren't helping out with the committees and stuff like that. I don't know, diversity and inclusion, you have the whole reason my committee is functioning right now is because of people who are volunteering committees. Just in general about the structure, I feel like there's so many people governing in one place. For example, for me as a committee head of DNI, I have to report to the vice president of the and then reports to the vice president of the then reports to the president. Too much right now. And then if we don't have senators, the question I have is all the senator stuff that we do now, voting on recommendations of budget committee or bills or stuff like that. Who would do that? Would that be the vice presidents and stuff? And then another thing is vice president communications. That's public relations or whatever. I don't understand government relations is under that. I think that's pretty much it.
Mark? So for the government thing there, I see that as so to speak, that one I was not sure where to place that. I saw that sort of speak as dealing with the sort of speak just relations public as a whole. You're kind of representing, so to speak. But that can go easily under somewhere on the student advocacy branch. To answer else about the senators, how I see it is that people are gonna draw to a task that they're most passionate about. So they're going to want to join a committee, and if people aren't passionate about a certain area, then they just aren't passionate. You're going to get the best results when people are working on a project that they're most passionate about doing. And to answer about, for example, the budget recommendations, that would be dealt solely by the other side.
Dakota?
If you're talking about passion, I think you have a wonderful group of extremely passionate individuals on the CSI, and I don't see any appropriation benefits.
Mark?
How that would work is it would be on the right side would serve as you would have the representative from each subcommittee, current CSI, plus a few extras assigned to those committees.
I don't like how there's no VPO because, well, the way it's set up, even though every administration is different, the way it's set up is that the VPO serves as somewhat the head of government and the president as the, I guess, head of state, to find an equivalent term, where the president serves as the voice of the student body and then works a lot with the administration, but the VPO works as sort of the head of government, and they deal with a lot of administrative stuff. I think putting both positions on the one person, just the president, who would be both head of government, head of state, would just be way too much.
Mark?
The head of government would be split up dependent upon branch. So dealing with the club stuff, the head of government would be the BPSI, for the other side would be the student advocacy. So they would deal with all the appointments. That's the thing.
Just as a direct response to what you were saying before, I would just like to clarify that we're not representatives of specific clubs. We're oversight of all the clubs that we see. We currently have power to make sure that the clubs are doing what they're supposed to be doing. There are 12 different representatives, and we all, perfect. We all actively make sure that all of our organizations are online. And under this new structure, you're putting all of that oversight just into 3 individuals that you then grow your oversight committee. And in addition, I don't think that we would be served best as representatives.
I guess we know 2 things, I don't know, I just think this whole is unnecessary, rather than focusing on how we internally structure things, I think we should just do things, I think it's just so over the top, I just think this proposed structure has way too much red tape. I think the way we do things fine is just focus on actually doing things instead of how we internally structure ourselves.
I don't think it was a waste of time or anything. I can see where this is going, and honestly, I like it to some extent. I just feel we needs to be polished. A question I had is if you worked with anybody else on this, specifically like members of the cabinet, because I feel like they can provide like a lot of insight for how like structuring this can go. Yeah, I just feel like it needs to be revisited and talked about this.
For me, I just want to clarify, this was sort of speak like a rough idea, obviously, this is, so, and not really spoken with the cabinet, I've shown it to a few of them, but not really had discussions now with them.
Ryan, she can go first.
Alright, so going back to the CSI, we covered a lot of area that I don't think a lot of the senators quite understand. I probably send about 8 or 9 emails a day to clubs fielding questions that would otherwise go to you guys and take longer to solve, where I can solve them in 5 minutes and make sure that clubs aren't violating any rules. It also means that I know my clubs, I know which ones are more likely to violate rules, so that I can educate them on what you guys want. It takes the power, it takes like the stress or the burden of it off of you guys and puts it onto us. And it also just helps to make sure that the clubs have a voice when they're here in the Senate. That it's not a senator and it's not a conflict of interest.
Yep.
I feel like having this discussion, like there are some things about the way the SGA is structured that I think could be changed, like some sort of small structural changes, but I think just a grand overhaul of the SGA really isn't necessary.
Ryan?
So I guess the thing that I was going to say is, like, I like that this is being discussed. I think it's always good to have discussion about like the best way to do things. Having seen how much went into the Constitution rewrite for the most recent version that we have, and there was a lot of changes in there by changing around mostly the cabinet, kind of leaving the Senate as it was. I think we made a lot of progress. I'm definitely open to further restructuring or looking at ways to do things, but I guess like my question is like, what specific issues are you targeting and trying to address here with this? And then if like based off of those, what are there ways that we could address those in our current structure so that we don't have to restructure? Because I would like to think that the SGA is in a spot where we can accomplish a lot of stuff with the roles that we have, and I think our time would probably be better spent on like trying to do something that affects the student body better, as opposed to consistently restructuring ourselves, because this is something that like comes up year after year.
For sure. I just think that like the biggest problem with SGA is necessarily that structure, but more about getting the student body involved and actually being student centric, like you say. Like we're always pulling that way that we're student centric, but like we really aren't. Like everybody here comes up with their own initiatives that they want to do for the students, and it's not really going out and reaching out, talking about what they want to do. So I think that's the biggest problem, and like the whole like restructure to try to get the student body involved, like it's not gonna work.
I have one question, Mark. Did you talk to your subcommittee head about this?
No.
Slash, do you even know which one of us is your subcommittee head?
Well, Matt Green is my subcommittee head for.
But for the SGA, because this is a restructuring of
I mean, I know that
your
Zoe is
constitution.
technically
Please don't
subcommittee
interrupt.
head as the NR subcommittee SGA.
Yeah, so do you know which one of us that is?
Yeah, Zoe, she's sitting right next to you.
Okay. Did you talk to her about it?
No, I did not.
Alright, I'd just like to say that this is gonna be as simple as possible. Alright, so this is just like an idea that Mark had. He's proposing it. He's already stated that he's willing to like mess with this and that this is a draft. He's willing to talk to people about it. So let's not like get too heated about this. Just
So me and Mark have talked about this before, and I did like the idea of having a VP of communications, because I think that would take, there's a lot of work that can be done there, and so that was a big positive that even we all talked about potentially doing. I also like the fact that there was like a member of the SGA instead of like a senator. I thought that was really cool in terms of just like people could get a title without really having to do all the positions that a senator would have to do, and I think that would just like help us PR wise. I do have to agree that it might be a little hasteful to restructure the entire thing, but honestly, like making movement towards some of these things, I don't think is like ridiculous or impossible to do. Like these conversations I think are extremely beneficial because we do, I mean, a couple people over here said it was like, let's just focus on the things that we do well, you know, like let's do student centricity, and I think it like refocuses us and gets us more like in tune with what we should be doing. So I don't know. I'm glad to hear what you guys have to think about it, and I'll talk to Mark more about it, and maybe we can start small and take some baby steps.
Matt?
I'd just like to clarify that under the current SGA Constitution, all enrolled undergraduate students at Stevens are considered members of SGA.
That is true. Ben?
So, can you explain how the fact that we have like two parts, the SGA, the student C part and the percentage part, how is it a problem that people are interested in one side? Like, is that really something that needs to be fixed? And second of all, how is this, I mean, in this graph, you still have the two parts to do it, encouraging people to be involved in both parts.
Okay, I didn't really hear what you said for your second question, but for the first one, it's kind of like letting people specialize on what they want. Because I know for some people when they join the Senate, approving stuff like RSO's probationary full stats, it's almost seen as like tedious work for them. They don't really see value in it, so it would let them help handle the task more specifically, like inclined to value and stuff that they care about more in improving. What did you say for the second part again? I'm sorry.
The second part was how this new structure actually changes that, because you split up into sides of the graph.
Yeah.
Have different purposes.
So it would be, the left side would deal with solely the student advocacy, so they wouldn't have to deal with anything with clubs, budgeting, etc. And the right side is the opposite, so they would deal with all the clubs and budgeting, while not necessarily have to worry about advocating just with the student administration. Kind of just like splits up their responsibilities, so you either have set A or set B as opposed to a mix of set A and B.
Yeah, so you're trying to split it instead of like dividing it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir?
I think at this point, like, you know, like you're not really going to always format. So like, I feel like if anybody has like further questions, they can just ask Mark about it. But again, like I do agree with Jason that like some of this stuff should be looked at. And I think like he did come up with good stuff. And I also like want to say that like I know like people are like kind of mad about this, but like I think he did do good stuff, and like I don't think anybody should be attacked. I think we can all.
I agree. I think this is very well intentioned, and it is true that we have less than 30 people in the Senate as it is right now, and we barely have quorum. Just something to consider. Right.
Yeah, I'd like to have like a meeting just to kind of talk about some of the ideas that are brought up here. You know, we don't have to follow this, and I think Mark laid some really good groundwork on like how we could possibly improve the SGA. So, you know, I think like a good time to maybe do it would be during like one of those office hours meetings that we're doing on Wednesdays. If that doesn't work for people, we can do another time. I'd be more than happy to do like an open cabinet meeting at some point, just to kind of sit down and talk about it, because you know I think this is a big issue. So if anyone has like any input, reach out and we can like totally set up a big meeting. I think outside of the Senate meeting would be a good time to talk about that.
Liam?
Going off of that, one idea I had for like changing the structure of the SGA just a little is, well, first of all, right now we have a lot of committees, and as it is quite apparent, we can't always count on there being enough senators to fill those committees and have a lot of members for each committee. So one idea I had is, what about, and this is just an idea I want to throw out here to get some feel for, is what about merging ACA and CAR? Because both deal with academics, and we can just call it like one, we can just call it the Academic Affairs Committee. So both deal with some pretty similar things, and it seems like merging them would be a good idea. So what are your thoughts?
We have discussed this a little bit before, and Mariana always had a very good point that the purposes of CAR and ACA are fundamentally very different. So I think merging those two committees isn't necessarily the best idea because their mission statements are very different.
Jason?
Bring this up next week when Jim is here, and then he'll give you a better reason as well.
Alex?
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of going off what Alina said, I've spoken to Mariana about this They do fundamentally different things. They are both academic committees, but they handle completely different ends of the spectrum of academic related things. So I personally would not be inclined to combine them. I think they're better off separate, focusing on what they focus on now.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Everyone has thoughts. Just in some form on this. This is a pretty substantial discussion. Substantial.
Yeah, going off of the people thing again, like I just want to stress that like again like this whole like if we want to be student centric, I think that's gonna like solve a lot of the problems because we're going out to these people and getting people to help with the committees and like more people feel inclined to help with these different committees. I'm just speaking from experience, like I know also like my committee is like something that I'm passionate about, but I also think that like if I had not gone out and gotten people involved and like spoken to people and done things like that, I would not have as many people as involved in the committee.
Sorry. You can do that, you know, when someone is not talking.
So again, like if I feel like if your committee has just I don't even know what I was saying because he like blew my shit. But like you know okay, like whatever.
You're in discussion. Phil?
I mean, I'm on CAR. I'm like the only one that's primarily on it. But a lot of it is like some of it is like it depends on like the semester. It depends like a lot of it's like reactive. Like dealing with individual student units. I mean, they are fundamentally different and there are a lot of overlaps, but I don't think without them really resolve it.
You're in discussion. Jake?
Certainly, and CAR does have a very important job, but as, like, I personally feel that it should be a subcommittee of the ACA.
I just want to point out, as per our bylaws, the only standing committee that's allowed to have subcommittees is the CSI.
Dakota?
Clarity, you can have a ad hoc subcommittee of any committee as long as the chair of that committee dedicates a designated ad hoc subcommittee chair. Bylaw section 6.3.
You're in discussion. Rami?
Class every time.
Sure. So part of why I came tonight, or why I came tonight, is I want to offer like a word of caution. So Ryan touched on this earlier, and the conversation that was just had about cars, as a good example, there will be several smaller discussions that will need to be had if there is to be any overhaul of our structure, not ours, it's not part of the SGA anymore. But I think the SGA should dedicate
So it looks like we're about to close pretty quick. I just want to push on the fact that we've talked about it a lot today, and the fact that we are low on senators. Please try to get one friend. Every person, if you get one friend to join, we literally double in size, and that would be really beneficial. So please focus on recruiting. It's a pretty key time for that, especially the older people. So that would be super beneficial for anything.
I just made a hashtag restructuring, so people can talk about this, the channel, join it, talk about things, we don't need to do it all now.
Liam?
One quick thing. Please get more people to fill out diversity inclusion your cultural center survey, or send it out to your old districts, which is what I did. You probably still have them, so please send them out. Just please get people to fill it out.
Thank you so much, Leon. Just like sorry. Yeah, on Saturday is like the last day for getting people to fill it out. Please email your constituents. I also know like a lot of people in here have not filled it out yet because a couple people filled it out today. So if you haven't filled it out, like do it. Yeah, we need 1,000 people. We're at 725 right now. Email it to districts.
Lena?
Touching upon both the intercultural center survey and vacancy. Touching upon both the intercultural center survey and the vacancy elections, like we have posters for both, so post them on your Instagram stories. People see those, people tap through those, get people's attention. Team effort.
All my stuff is like right there. That's why I have it there, so like go post it.
Second.
Is moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.